Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Jim Masters Show live entertainment lifestyle variety talk show series. Hope everybody is doing well. And if you're not having a good day, you have found the right spot to be inspired, entertained, informed, educated, and just have a good time with us with our light love, levity, and our famous levity here on the Jim Masters Show entertainment lifestyle variety talk show series, joined by a very special guest. Bryan Pezzone is here. Yes, we are so excited. We're excited because we're talking about the actual pronunciation of his last name. And we were saying that he checked with his dad years ago about how to say it. And we're doing it in the way that is traditional. And I really think that's fantastic. He's an extraordinary composer, renowned pianist, consummate crossover pianist too. And he's coming to us today live from his wonderful studio there in Los Angeles, California. He maintains an active freelance career performing and recording for a lot of incredible projects and television and film, and has worked with symphony orchestras and so much more, gang. He's been based in Los Angeles since 1987, and he holds a degree from the Eastman School of Music, as well as a known versatile performer who is comfortable in classical, contemporary, improvisational styles. And he also performs with nearly every established orchestra in Southern California, such as the Los Angeles Chamber Orchestra, Los Angeles Philharmonic, the New West Symphony, the Pasadena Symphony, the Long Beach Symphony, and many others, including the Los Angeles Master Chorale. Bryan was the principal pianist with the Hollywood Bowl Orchestra from its inception in 1991 through 99, and from 87 to 2000, he was the chair and founder of the multi-focused keyboard program at the California Institute for the Arts. Recently, Bryan was invited to join the faculty of the Los Angeles College of Music in 2017 on the ground level of its new piano major, which is eclectic in nature and addresses the needs of the 21st century's pianist. He has also recorded on hundreds of television and motion picture soundtracks and has been the pianist on virtually all of the cartoons released by Warner Brothers and Disney. That's right. And as a soloist, Bryan has performed with the Colorado Symphony Orchestra, Atlanta Symphony Orchestra, as I mentioned, Hollywood Bowl Orchestra, the Pasadena Pops, California Philharmonic, Riverside Symphony, Santa Monica Symphony, San Antonio Symphony, Los Angeles Philharmonic Institute Orchestra, the United States International University Orchestra, UC Irvine Symphony Orchestra, Eastman Philharmonic, and the Pacific Symphony, just to name a few. And he does all that on Thursdays. He's coming to us live and direct from his studio. Bryan, thank you very much for joining us. Welcome to the Jim Masters Show live, my friend.
Thank you for having me. It's a real pleasure to be here.
You
action.
And I say that's just the short list. And I want you to say the last name as you said it to me, because I think it was great hearing it from you. And tell us a little story about it too, because people will see the description of it or the spelling and they'll say, oh, he's Bryan Pezzone, which works. However,
So when I grew up in Western Pennsylvania.
Newcastle, right?
Newcastle. And so we, in the old Capone style, we dropped the final E. And so it was Pezzone. I was out here. There was one orchestra years ago, that international United States International University Orchestra. There was a wonderful man, Zoltan Rosnay, Hungarian. He said, I was playing some Mozart with him, and he said, why don't you pronounce your name the right way? He said, I said, what's the right way? He said, it's Pezzone. And so he said, the two Z's are like pizza, Zizi, Pezzone, and you pronounce, and you inflect the E, Pezzone. And I said, wow, okay. And then I said, well, let me call my dad first and ask just to get his permission.
Always good to check with dad. Yeah, especially when it's a family name.
Yeah, I called my dad, and my dad said, of course, pronounce it Pezzone, because that's the way it's really supposed to be said. Yes. And so the two Z's are like a TZ sound, or Pezzone. Yeah.
That is
I
fantastic.
have some old friends from school back in the college days that will still use Pezzone, and it doesn't bother me. I've come to be attached a little more to the Y in my first name rather than the I when people
Yes.
spell, because I thought about this, and I don't think anybody in 1962 in a Western Pennsylvania Italian town that's was first and second generation removed of a full-blooded Italian family on both sides would have chosen the name Brian with a Y, except for my mother.
Right. You
And
wouldn't think. Right?
the Y, my middle name's Anthony, and her father's name is Anthony. And from when I talked with my dad, he said, "Oh, we didn't know if you were going to be a boy or girl. I wasn't in the room, and your mother just had this name on her mind." And so I go, I think she picked that for a reason. And I've done a Google search to see how many names there are like that out there, and there are none.
With the
So
Y, huh?
with the Y or with an I. It's just it's an unusual Italian name. I guess it comes from this little village outside of Naples. But I guess over there, my dad says it means something. I don't know. So
Now,
maybe I'll retire there.
do a little archival digging, right? Ancestral digging. Have you been to Italy?
I've never been to Italy. There are a lot of places I've never been to that I'd love to go to before, I get too old to walk around.
To be able to make it through the
Travel.
TSA and everything else,
Yeah,
to get patted down or whatever.
yeah.
So, growing up in the Keystone State in Pennsylvania, you are a East Coast boy, and then the West Coast came calling. But what were some of those early influences for you growing up in Pennsylvania? Musical family,
Hmm.
just schooling, education. What was it that inspired you to want to get into music and the arts, Brian, with
Well,
the Y?
it's an unusual story that a lot of my friends know, and involves a little bit of family tragedy, but I'll make it
Yeah,
short.
sure. Yeah.
My mom was the oldest sister of her. Tony Marie was the oldest of her brothers and sisters, and she had me, and with my dad, of course, and and then I think I was about 18 months old. I have memory that goes really back, really far. So I remember memories from 6 weeks old, 7 weeks old. And she got very ill with multiple sclerosis all at once in a sort of an uncharacteristic way. This She was probably 18 or 19, and she crashed, and she wasn't supposed to make it through the night. And so what happened is her mom and dad, or her father, took her back into actually her mom and dad, because they were brother, took her back into their house. And so I live with my grandmother and grandfather and my mother's brothers, the Stoners. And down the alley, evidently, my great grandma, who's was my mother's father's mother. She
Hmm.
was a Sicilian one with red hair.
With
Like great grandma Stoner had a piano in a little white room. And so my uncle David walked me down there. I might have been 18 months old, and he might have been 4 or 5. And there was this piano, and I was fixated. I just sat on it, and
Yes.
I played very, very gently, and it was my happy place to go to discover. And my grandmother taught my uncle David how to make meatballs and pasta. So
Really?
yeah, he went into the food industry, and I just stayed attached to the piano. And so that's how I really started. I started by exploring all the different keys. I mean, in a very, very simple ways, like which things sounded eerie together, which things sounded nice. And then soon began playing songs by ear.
By
Soon,
ear,
oh,
exactly.
yeah,
Right.
right
Yeah.
off the radio, because my mother liked a lot of songs. And then, began just a really intuitive understanding of how the language of music works. And then So I did all that for a good 4 or 5 years and was already, I, I didn't go to kindergarten. I went to first grade. So
You dove right into first grade. Exactly.
my mom wanted to have me a little longer.
I love piano by ear too. We go
Yeah.
up to Massachusetts. We would go up to Connecticut and Massachusetts every summer for about a month to visit my mother's New England side of the family, because my mother has a huge family, like the youngest of 16, my mother. So
Yeah.
we would come up from New York and spend about a month, in New England, Connecticut, Massachusetts throughout. And we would go up to Massachusetts, northern Massachusetts, and my aunt, Doreen, and Uncle Fred, my mother's brother, and his wife. She's originally from Austria, from Vienna. And in the dining room was always this beautiful, gorgeous, I think it came from Germany, upright piano. And I would always slip in, even at a really young age, and just go into that room and just start playing, just playing by ear too. And I was ahead of my time, maybe ever the broadcaster. I had a little Panasonic cassette deck, the ones you could carry with the handle,
I
and I
remember.
would have a blank cassette, and I still have those cassette tapes where I'm playing at like age 11
Mhm.
on this piano, just banging away. And the two songs that I was able to nail early by ear, of course, Heart and Soul.
Uh-huh.
Da, 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 da.
Mhm.
This makes sense, especially at that young age and hearing it on TV. The All in the Family theme.
Oh yeah.
Da, 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 da.
Those were
Da,
the
da, da, da,
days.
da, da, da. And you're using both hands. Dun, 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 dun.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was fantastic. And I pull that out every once in a while, and then I would do some other things. But that's a cool thing, when you have an instrument in a house, a relative's house or in your house, whatever it is, and it's there, and you're just, I mean, it was like a magnet for me. All instruments always magnets for me, but that
Yeah.
piano going up there every time we would visit every summer, it was such a thrill to be, sitting there, and the piano would be sitting there. It's in the
Yeah.
dining room, it's just sitting there. Nobody was thinking of just doing anything. I would always say, then they'd open up the French doors to the dining room. It's like a special thing for me to be
Mhm.
using it. My cousins and others, they'd be outside playing and stuff like that. And I would join them too, but I had to get in there and, tickle those ivories. And it sounds like, early on for you, that did it for you too, huh?
You know exactly what I'm talking about. So when I would go in the first grade, I would, I mean, I would just get up out of my seat and I would run to whatever piano there was and start playing. And
Whatever one there was. Yeah.
they didn't have to hold me back and say, "Okay, sit down, be good, Brian." I'm like, and it was like that. I mean, it was my whole world.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
uh, and in the town of Newcastle, a lot of like a lot of towns. I mean, all over the country, a lot of great musicians there. And so I made friends, and I started playing with them, and I started playing in bands, and I started playing, my actually my my older brother Vince, he played a little drum set, and we had our little first band together when I was 6 or 5.
6.
Yeah.
Now, I had, because those are things you would get, and it probably came out of the Sears wish book,
Probably,
the
yep, it was
catalog. You circle all the things you hope Santa Claus would bring.
mhm,
And there was one time, we were given the book and we were looking at it. My sister was as well, and circling different things. And my mother said that I circled 99 things in that book. 99 things. And one of the things that came was this little, I can still see it now. It had sort of a green, like a light green color to it with white legs. And it was a little toy piano
beautiful.
early on. That's going back before I'm, touching my aunt's and uncle's piano in Massachusetts. Just a little toy piano, a little guitar. Then I upgraded to the electronic organ. Remember,
Mhm.
they had those organs too,
Oh, yeah.
which had a little synthesizer nature to it as well, which was kind of cool. So but Did you have a toy piano as a kid too?
Oh, I have the same kind of story because there was this one Christmas down at my grandfather's place, or grandmother's. There was this little box about this big, and I'll never forget this. And I opened it up, and it was just a tiny battery operated little keyboard that had like one octave. And I will never forget, the goosebumps and the utter bliss and goosebumps and joy that just flooded through my system. They wouldn't stop. And that was the first one. And then the second one was the old, first sort of like a generation before you, but it was those old Magnus organs that had the little push button chords. And so I had one of those. And meanwhile,
That's what I had.
Yeah.
Was the Magnus. I forgot the name until you said it. Magnus. Yes.
Yeah. So
Magnus.
I had one. And then, what happened is I went to first grade, and across the street, literally right across the street, there was this wonderful place called the Neighborhood House. And it was started by a few wonderful immigrants from Germany. And it was sort of a place for all of us folks on the South Side, to get educated, to learn for other people to learn English. Well, they had they would have every day I would walk there, they would have a Bible school. And so I would walk there every day. I'd hear, "Do Lord, oh, do Lord." I hear, I'd hear, "How great thou art." I hear all these hymns coming out. And all I did was, just not knowing any better, I just walked inside. I said, "Hey, can I play the piano?" And wonderful lady there, May Welker, she said, "Sure." So I start down and playing their hymns. Yeah. And she was like, she called my dad. She said, "Mr. Pezzone, you have to get your son a piano. I'll teach him for $5 a lesson." And my dad and his buddies got this $25 upright, this huge thing, and put it in our house. And so that stream started me on the sort of classical side of things. But Mrs. Welker was really kind and introduced things to me, not in any tiger mom kind of way, And so I always had teachers that shepherded me through the fine arts end of it, but they never got in the way of my own, need to improvise and to play in rock bands and to do whatever I want, really. And so that served me very well.
Was piano always the thing, or did you try other instruments along the way too?
Well, it's a funny story. When I was in grade school, I guess in fourth grade, that's when we were able to choose an instrument if we wanted to be in band.
That's right. Yeah.
So we had this old school, and my old band director, Mr. Mastrodi, we walked us down the hall, and they said, "Well, we know you can play piano, but," they opened the door, "we need to pick you an instrument so you can play in marching band." So it was musty, and there were two cases on the floor. So they opened the first case. I looked at it. I thought I was looking at a big snake swamp or something. It was this big thing with tubes and a lot of buttons on it. Turned out to be an alto clarinet or something. Right. I don't like that. And then they opened up something else. There was this gold shiny thing that didn't have any buttons on it. It was a trombone. I said, "I want that one." No buttons.
No buttons.
So I ended up playing the trombone.
The trombone. My first was the violin for me.
Okay. Yeah.
It was like seventh grade. The violin was first.
We didn't have many of those around. I think maybe in neighboring Youngstown and probably Cleveland and Pittsburgh. But in Newcastle, it's a really great sports town too.
Oh yeah.
I did a lot of sports myself as well. It's amazing I haven't broken anything. But so we had marching bands and very much the same kind of tradition as a lot of Middle America with the marching bands. And so I played trombone, and then I even brought it to college with me, and I think I brought it to college with me. Now I left it home. But I brought my Fender Rhodes to college with me. So that was
Yeah. So what were you listening to? What was the music that you were listening to during those years?
Oh my God, it was
everything.
It was, my dad my dad's still alive, so my dad has really good taste. So,
Yeah.
we had a big one of those old style stereos.
The
Lots of
big wood furniture ones, right?
furniture one where you
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 put
have
like
all, yeah.
4 or 5 records on, and they would drop as each one would be on. And then when each LP is done playing, you have to take them all off and then flip them over. And then
Yeah, yeah. So he had tons of records in there that were all over the spectrum, and they were things for he. I think he liked the harmonica. And one time I took his harmonicas apart. He he didn't get mad, and he liked the guitar too. So he had records in there like the Harmonic Cats, and then 3 guitarists, and then he had Montevani Orchestra.
oh
Then he
yeah,
had, then he
yeah.
had my mom liked a lot of Supremes and Elvis and other dance music, and so
Yes, yeah.
I was listening to a lot of that, and then I had a little 45 player too, and I remember when I was 5 or 6 years old, and my dad had a little 45 player of Wade in the Water of Ramsey Lewis, and I could not stop listening to that little record. On the B
Yes.
side, there was another tune called "Ain't That Peculiar," and that was the first time I had heard that kind of groove. And
Yeah.
then I think it was the classic. I was this little child, sort of walk me to the neighbor's house and the other person's house. Listen to them play the piano. Listen to them play the piano. They asked me to learn Misty, so they bought an Earl Garner record, and I learned Misty, and then from my older brother's influence, he was listening to. I loved old rock and roll, old funk. I mean, so I was listening to the Grand Funk Railroad. I was listening to Black Sabbath when I was 8 years old. I was listening to, and of course, I was studying Chopin, and I was listening to Bach, and I was listening to Beethoven, and I was listening to.
AC and the Sunshine Band, and
Oh yeah, well, AC came up. They were great. Yeah, yeah, that was the.
quite a mix of
Yeah,
everything,
it
right?
just kept going like that. And I
Which is
remember
great.
the cassette recorder. I would carry a cassette recorder with me all the time. And what really made a big impression on me was on public radio in Pittsburgh. Um, they had a special of Andre Previn and Oscar Peterson playing together. And I had never heard jazz that way before, like bebop, sort of oriented jazz. And Andre Previn and Oscar Peterson started jamming together, and it flipped me out. And so I sort of had this thing when I was a kid of always trying to sound like 2 pianists. It started off with Ferrani and Teicher, because I always tried to copy them.
Oh, absolutely.
Did
Yes.
little variety shows in Newcastle for all the little clubs there, like the Wolf's Club, the Elks
Yeah.
Club. And I would always end these little shows
I
with
have a lot of their music
yeah,
too.
with
Yeah.
the theme from Exodus. That was my big number, trying to sound like both of them. And
Yeah.
then when I heard Oscar Peterson and Andre Previn play, I couldn't stop playing blues and trying to figure out what they were doing,
Yeah.
and just playing all kinds of notes and blues notes and trying to sound like 2 pianists. And what I would do is I was obsessive about recording myself,
Great
bringing it up to my
idea.
bedroom
Yes.
and going to sleep with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was about when I was 9 or 10.
Oh, the cassette, the phonograph, the cassette deck, that was within,
Yeah,
a foot of my bed at least. Another
yeah.
the music, no, there was always music
Oh, it
of
was right
some
there,
sort of a
right
music player of some sort was right next to the
there.
bed. Yeah,
Yeah,
it couldn't be further from that. And
right.
the TV would be right across on the bureau, but the music was right there and the cassettes and everything. And I still have all of it. I saved that, all of
You
that.
did.
All
Yeah.
of that stuff I saved. It's stuff we used to spend hours taping off the radio.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we would tape, and that's why I have these air checks
Yeah.
of announcers. Our our city of influence was New York City, so we had the WABC and WNBC and all the legendary stations,
Sure.
and those legendary, the Dan Ingrams and all those announcers. But the music, yeah, really. There's something about music, isn't it? The music's very healing. It's a universal language. It just really brings people together, especially, with all the crazy stuff we've been going through lately, music can really be a great source of comfort, inspiration, pleasure, joy, entertainment, all of it.
Over the years, when I was younger, I would have complicated theories, more complex theories for things. And these days I have simple theories for things, and I just have to make sure that, when they're simplified, that it's kind of on point. I always thought that as a species that whatever music is, we have in our DNA naturally. And so this is why I never underestimate the ears of the general audience. People feel music. And this is why when we were talking about playing by ear, I've had so many people come to me and said, oh, I just learned by ear, with an apologetic face. And I said, no, 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 no. That's the best way to learn. You're putting your ears and your heart and your physical body and your nervous system together. And I just think it's something that most human beings feel. I think it's something we're gifted with. And it's just not every, and actually more do than are recognized as musicians out there. I got very lucky in the sense that I just have a stubborn will to follow my own path. And so I knew when I was 3, 4, and 5, and 6, I'm going to be a musician. I never considered anything else. I was always interested in the sciences. I was always interested in outer space. I was, even from a young age, I was always interested in the philosophical questions, but there was no question in my mind that it was music or nothing. So, and that's the way
it's something that runs deep and beats deeply as well. And it's a beautiful, beautiful thing. You've got a fabulous piano sitting over there.
Yeah.
Do you want to tickle us with anything right now, Bryan?
Sure. What would you like to hear?
You want to surprise us? Something that
you mentioned some music there. You said Heart and Soul and the bunker theme, and I realized that we had a third grade assembly one time. Our teacher, Mrs. Lucas, put together our third grade class dancing under umbrellas. And there was a little piano by the stage, and we did it to Raindrops Keep Falling on My Head. And so I played the piano, very unselfconsciously. And all these kids in a little elementary school, they all stood up and started clapping. And I was like, what? So maybe I'll play a short version of Raindrops Keep Falling on My Head. And what I like doing most of all,
you improv,
is always doing something improvisatory, always making it up new on the spot. And since we talked about those other pieces, there's no way that the Archie Bunker theme and A Little Heart and Soul won't make its way into Raindrops Keep Falling on My Head somehow.
I think what's good about the improv of it too is the YouTube copyright stuff that comes through, because it's improv and you're blending things together. I think it's like you're creating an original with essences of these.
Yeah, I just, I just tell. I mean, I know it sounds simple, but I just tell people that improvising is like talking, and reading music is like reading a book, and that's just due to my lifetime.
It's so true. Tell us about that beautiful piano in front of you.
Well, this is a nice Yamaha. It's a disc clavier, and I've done a lot of recording for Yamaha over the years, and the disc clavier is able to play itself back when you need it to. And so anybody that owns a disc clavier out there, I've recorded about 300, 400, 500 of the titles from classical music all the way through popular music, from Led Zeppelin all the way through Mozart, from Elvis to the best of the sort of like the digestible pieces of the 20th century, and so
Elton John and
lots of Elton John and
Elton John. When
So
you're sitting in front of that instrument there, because I'm just watching the way you're sort of caressing it, looking at it like it's a friend, like it's like
yeah,
you've humanized it. What feeling happens to you sitting there, looking at it, getting ready to do your thing with it? There's a real relationship with the instrument, isn't there?
it's a symbiosis. It's an appendage. I you know lately, after going through so much training, concertos, and everything else, and playing, it's basically reduced back down to that those little baby hands on the piano at my great grandma's house. And so when I sit, it's like, this is completing me. And this is why I'm so obsessive, especially during the pandemic, of doing YouTube live videos. And this is how we're able to be here, because I'm going,
Yeah.
what else to do, to write. So that's all it is. This is Close to You. It's my mother's favorite song. And then we'll go to your classic Warner Brothers.
And that's just the warm-up, folks, right? That was terrific to be able to blend those classics together like that, in that improv way. And it all made sense, that medley, it all made sense.
I did something that I didn't intend to do, because, a lot of the songs I learned earlier, they were my favorites of my mom's. And she passed away when I was young. But her favorite song was Close to You by the Carpenters.
The Carpenters, yeah.
Yeah, so I said, I'm going to start with Raindrops Keep Falling on My Head. And suddenly I'm over here. And I'm in Close to You. We'll get the raindrops later.
What do you consider that? A divine intervention of sorts, perhaps?
Very, very Freudian and divine intervention, and probably where my heart really is.
She's watching. Yeah, she is watching, and she's loving it.
She's always been watching. Always,
yes.
always.
I want to sprinkle in a little bit here. There's more music and everything coming up. Folks, if you are watching for the first time, thanks for joining us. This is the Jim Masters Show, the talk of the town. I tell you, we've been doing this for quite some time now, over 730 episodes live 7 days a week since we launched April 2020. And if you are enjoying this and you'd like to comment during the show, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel, Jim Masters TV. Then you can comment in our JMS Live Lovely chat room. Don't forget to leave a comment on our YouTube channel as well. And while you're here, make sure you subscribe anyway, because that really helps us grow, lets us know you enjoy what we're doing. And there's no cost for that as well. And click that notification bell so you never miss all this action, all these great episodes here on the Jim Masters Show Live. I wanted to show our audience, and there are so many, we couldn't even fit them all into our system. But I mentioned, of course, you've worked with all these fabulous symphony orchestras, and you've worked with some of the greats. At the same time, you've been a part of so many soundtracks of our lives, from film, television, and so much more. And I just want to sprinkle in, Troy, just a few of these folks. Take a look at this lineup.
Greatest, James Horner. He was so wonderful to work with. Yeah.
And again, one of the greats. And gang, this is just all we could fit into the system. There are many, many, many more. Of course, look at this one too, Master and Commander. Tinkerbell. I talked about, you are on just about virtually all of the Disney and Warner Brothers cartoons and animations, which is amazing. The Terminal, Tom Hanks and Catherine Zeta-Jones, his playing is on there as well. Scary Movie 2, and also Tiny Toons.
That's where my career started, recording.
Was Tiny Toons, really?
Yeah. I started in cartoons. I started in the remakes of all the cartoons,
which is incredible.
With Tiny Toons,
The Seventh Stream, Stuart Little, another fantastic. You remember some of these, gang? The Red Eye, from movies to cartoons. Happy Feet. Oh, how can you not, forget that? Soul Food. Again, these are just some of the movies and TV shows and everything that he's been a part of. Lady in the Water. Fringe, again, just a few. Live Free or Die Hard as well, just sprinkling in a few. There are so many, we couldn't even fit them all into our system. There's a limit as far as photos, and we grabbed a bunch. Flubber, Robin Williams. Disney, of course, Matrix, Revolutions, and Scream 2, and I think Scream 1, and Scream, I think just about all the Scream movies. Princess Diaries 2. With the wonderful Julie Andrews in there. His playing is in all of these, folks. The Little Mermaid 2, his playing is happening in that as well. So now when you listen to these and watch these again, gang, you're going to be listening for his for his work. Tinkerbell Lost Treasure, and Honey, I Blew Up the Kid. Tom Cruise, Mission Impossible. What's cool about this, which we're showing you, gang, is the variety of material. It isn't all just one genre. And he's called upon to really play everything for everyone. Must Love Dogs, that a great movie as well. Touched by an Angel, which is a great one too. Monster-in-Law, Mr. and Mrs. Smith. Bringing back a lot of memories. Newsies, of course, as well. Walt Disney, Hercules, RoboCop 3, The Nightmare Before Christmas.
And I didn't even know who Danny Elfman was when I did.
Isn't that something? Right.
Then I found out, and I went, oh, okay.
And that became a real classic. This was beautiful. Tuesdays with Morrie, with Hank Azaria and Jack Lemmon, based on the true story. And we saw this about 6 months ago. Jack Lemmon, one of my favorite actors, and a brilliant movie. And now we're going to watch it again. I'm going to listen for that kind of, the music that's in a very touching and moving story like that can really move you. Lost, of course, as well. And Disney's Enchanted. He's on all of these, folks. And again, this is just a few. This is all we could even fit into our technical system here. A Beautiful Mind, Russell Crowe. Glee on Fox, too. Legendary series. Look at all of these incredible epic shows and series, The Good Son as well. Again, these are just a few of them, folks, a few. There's many, many, many more. When you look at this body of work, it's what I think is cool is the way you're even looking at these photos and you're like, that's right, I forgot about that. And there's that, and there's that, and there's that. It's incredible, isn't it?
Well, what's incredible is I think I told you when we were emailing is that it's really it's I'm really lucky. I am the I'll use the word the worst. I am the worst self promoter in the world. And so I just said, Jim, I said, everything that you find online about me, somebody else put there.
You didn't, right?
I
You didn't have a hand in anything, right?
So I've kind of marveled at and actually very, very, kind of been humbled by, wow, I put the name in and look at these different things that have come up. And, with that, all of those were simply by virtue of being here and then just having one door open and then going into the session. And because when I was in college, one of the things that I did, amongst other things, was they used to have film composers a program at Eastman.
Yes.
And they would all ask me to come and record their scores. So I just put on the headphones, listened to the click, read the music.
Yes.
And so suddenly I was the one being asked. And so when I moved to California and I got the job at Cal Arts, the job at Cal Arts was really a sophisticated avant-garde new music job. I never put two and two together. And I don't even think I had an awareness that underscoring in film music was even something that was done as a big industry. I honestly didn't know how big of an industry it was. And then a friend said, well, why don't you get a hold of this guy and that guy? And I went to a studio, and the great pianist, Ralph Grierson, invited me to a session one time years ago, and was with David Shire. And I went to observe it. And he was writing the music for a miniseries called Echoes in the Darkness. And this was at the old CBS Radford studios. Mm-hmm. So I walked in, I met these legendary pianists. I met Ralph Grierson, I met Mike Lang, I met Chet Svitkowski. I saw Ralph and Mike with all of these synthesizers around them. And I was like, oh, this is where they do this. and then Ralph asked me, said, well, do you want to do this? I said, yeah, I'd love to, but not with all that equipment. so what ended up happening is a friend of a friend, they on one of the Tiny Toons one day, my dear friend Jim Walker, he's a great world-class flutist.
Yes.
A friend of his, Kenny Watson, was contracting, and Kenny needed a pianist for a half a day of a Tiny Toon. And Jim said, Kenny, why don't you try out this guy, Bryan? And so I went there. I walked in the studio. Orchestra was set up. Put the headphones on. I was like, oh. And I only did a half a day. And I was like, oh, this is like really easy. And it was half of a Tiny Toon. And what happened to happen was that, Bruce Broughton wrote the Tiny Toon themes.
You're right.
And he had a whole team of composers. Well, the composer that day and that morning was somebody that's departed us way too young, named Richard Stone. Now, so what started to happen is I started to be called for a lot of Tiny Toons. Warner Brothers gave the contract to Richard Stone specifically to be the composer for the Animaniacs. And that all started, the Pinkies and the Brains followed. And there's this other wonderful composer, Mark Waters, who teaches now at Eastman, who was doing the Disney side of those things. It was Goof Troop and Bonkers. And so Richard asked me to do all the Animaniacs. Mark asked me to do all of those Disney cartoons. And then Hanna-Barbera started making remakes of Casper and Scooby-Doo. So there was I started in with all of these cartoons with my two little synthesizers. So I never bought the big stuff. So I had two little synthesizers, and I had an old mixer, and I would just push buttons and push up faders up and down, and they loved it. All I had to do was invent a theremin sound. And so it all started there. And the very, very first motion picture I was ever on, which is more of a movie contract, happened to be, again, through Kenny Watson, and it happened to be the remake, the original Beauty and the Beast. And I went on that, and I was like, wow, look at this big orchestra. And I had no idea who Ellen Menken was. I had no idea what a big deal this remake of Beauty and the Beast was. I ended up on a Aladdin next, and then after that, Pocahontas, and then these doors just kept opening up and opening up and opening up in that direction. But I was also still had a foot planted in the classical music, avant-garde concert direction, and it was really a whirlwind for the number of years there. And
yes.
So, yeah.
Even also the principal pianist with the Hollywood Bowl Orchestra for a number of years. Tell us about that. That's quite an honor.
And that was due to, again, Ralph Pearson and Jim Walker and Kenny Watson. It's just, they said, well, it was going to be me and Ralph sharing the chair. And then Ralph wasn't able to do it. And so I took the chair, and the conductor is this wonderful John Malcheri, who's just incredible. He's world famous, one of the greatest people I know. And this was what he had done, is he had given rebirth to what the old Hollywood Bowl Orchestra used to be under Carmen Dragon in the 30s, and perhaps Toscanini when they would play the Pops. What had happened through the 50s and the 60s is the Los Angeles Philharmonic would take over both all of the weekly series and the weekend pop series. So they really wanted to revive. So I guess I came along at the right time for all of these revivals. And John resurrected all of this music that hadn't been heard before from film scores. He had put suites together of the great film score composers, the emigres, the ones that like Eric Korngold, his scores, and he championed all of this wonderful music that came, that from the influx of the emigres from, frankly, from Germany and fascism, moved into LA and became great film composers. Mixolas Roja, Franz Waxman, and then in this country it was Newman, not Lionel. Lionel was the producer, but his brother Alfred, who is the American, and so he started playing all of this music. So I was playing original scores that were from The Wizard of Oz, from all of we were doing Duke Ellington suites and Duke Ellington's pen, and so the breadth of the material that we did was incredible. And John knew all of this music, and those were just incredible years. And we traveled to Japan about 3 times. We traveled to Brazil once. And on Copacabana Beach, boy, this was in 1998. They actually built a replica of the Hollywood Bowl on Copacabana Beach.
Wow.
And up there. And, there were about 30,000 people down the beach, and it was like, wow, this is pretty neat.
That is so cool. That is amazing.
Those years were great. And there was a lot of music I hadn't known that I fell in love with that John had programmed. Especially one of my favorite songs from Carousel, which is "If I Loved You." I fell in love with that song when
that's a great one.
Yeah.
Did you play at Tanglewood as well in Massachusetts?
Oh yeah,
that's around this time of the year too. What a great place that is, huh?
I was a student in 1983. I auditioned for Tanglewood. And a couple of my other friends from school were going to go over, and we were going to drive over, and they pulled out at the last minute, and I went, not me. I went down to the local ticket agent and bought an airplane ticket, to little student, and we I got air sickness in Syracuse. I
Did you?
landed in Boston, yeah, and then I just made my way to the interview with the
So,
great Gil
yeah,
Kalish over at the New England Conservatory or wherever,
the
or Boston.
Berkshire Mountains in
Yeah.
Massachusetts.
And so
Beautiful.
I played my pieces, and then I got this phone call. He said, "Congratulations, you're one of." See, they have on that level of the program,
Yeah.
they call the fellows. They have 6 pianists. They ask 2 back, and they bring in 4 more. So I was one of the 4 that was asked in the first summer, and then the second summer in '84, I was invited back, which is rare, and that was due
That's
to
an honor.
and Gunther Schuller.
Mm,
Gunther Schuller really took a liking to me, and he was responsible for that. And at the end of that summer, I played a really, really good Brahms quartet. And Gil came up to me and said, "Will you come back a third time?" And I have, I've said for as many times as I said yes, there's in my career, there have been some really important times where I have said no, or I have quit things. And I said, Gil, I'm going to the Banff Center. I'm going to be doing more of my own music. I don't think I'm going to have what it takes to come back a third summer and really practice this repertoire up to a world-class level, because I want to go more into my improvisation and other music. And so it was at the Banff Center that I went to in lieu of a graduate school, because I didn't want to get into a master's degree. And that's where I met people that changed my life as far as thinking about music, from Richie Byrack, Dave Liebman. And that's where I crossed paths with George Crumb and Toru Takemitsu and a lot of other influences. And I think the gambit paid off, because when I was up in the Bay Area in 1986, there was a job opening. It was the only one in the world that said, needs to be able to play contemporary music, classical music, do these, do these, do these, do these, do these, period. Because every other job in 1986 had minimum. This didn't have anything. And I was like, that's the reason why I scratched out that box when I was a senior. I was going to go over to Stony Brook and study with Gil. I checked the full-time student box. I literally got a knot in my stomach, and I threw it in the waste paper can, and I got into Banff under the wire. And so I've done that kind of thing a lot, where I followed just gut instinct and made a lot of radical moves that have all turned out for the better, but it's taken some time.
right,
so
exactly. Not exactly the route that
Yeah,
would be the easiest in
it's
terms of
not
travel,
very,
but it's the one truest to you.
yeah. And I won the Cal Arts job, and I came down as a 24-year-old, and that got me started in LA.
That's
Um,
incredible.
and so that was what got me up to the next level. And then I eventually resigned from there in 2000, and left the Hollywood Bowl Orchestra later in '99 to keep exploring, and now it's further exploration. So if I had wanted to, I won some composition awards, BMI awards for student composers and some other things. But there are all these career tracks that one can follow. Oh, I want to be, the great classical pianist. I want to be the new music pianist. I want to stay in the film industry. There's so many paths that were already laid out there before me that I've been on, and I would get onto a path, and something inside of me would go, well, this is all phenomenal, but it's not you. And so, my whole life, even though I've done all these things for 40 years, 40 or 50 years, what the pandemic really put me in touch with was who I've always wanted to be, as a pianist.
And who is that? How do you describe it, Bryan?
It's really simple. It's playing songs that people know. It's playing songs that everybody loves. My heroes growing up were especially Peter Nero.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Now, Peter Nero was the last solo pianist, in my opinion, that brought something to the public as a solo act, that was just a fine pianist, and he came more out of the tradition of you know you know
Yeah.
that pianist. And
Yeah.
and this all started with my love of Gershwin. When I first encountered Gershwin, I my head exploded. I was like, oh my God, somebody put classical and jazz together. So what I always wanted to be was somebody that could take, as much sophistication, know-how up here, but use it for the common purpose of touching a broad audience of people, so that music could have not only the tunes, not only the music, but the made up spontaneous quality in the moment, and touching and playing the piano in such a way so that they could really feel the emotion. And that was my favorite thing to do when I was a teenager. It was my favorite thing to do when I was a child. And it was always my favorite thing to do. And everything else that I had done other than that, I tried to get as good as possible at, for the challenge and for the ethic. But all I ever wanted to do was just be some sort of like more casual hippie version of Peter Nero, and maybe get Jerry Garcia or something. I don't know.
Garcia version of Nero. That is funny. Who's good too was Roger Williams.
There you go. That's who I was thinking about.
Roger Williams, yeah.
Roger Williams was a progenitor of that. And then, back, I remember the Eddie Duchin was that personality, but he played more.
Then there was Victor Borge.
Victor Borge and Oscar Grant was in there. And so I always thought that there was a place in culture for that person. And what happened is that place, when I started to try to enter it, the place in culture sort of closed down around 1998, 99, due to sort of the collapse of the Windham Hill aesthetic and the way that other pop aesthetics were coming together. And that window closed. And now I'm finding that, 10 years later, in 2018, and the pandemic, and playing I just went directly low tech to Facebook and the way I worked, we were talking about the compressor limiter issues with Facebook. The way I was able to work around it was to broadcast on my phone. Now, the only way that I could broadcast on my phone at that point was to have the phone turned towards me, because on the Facebook algorithm, it didn't squash the dynamics anymore. That had happened in the middle. So I always had the backwards image. And people say, I love your playing, but I can't stand the backwards image. So it was always, the most direct, the lowest tech, reach as many people as I can that way. And let's see where that goes.
Exactly.
So it's been that way for a while now. Yeah.
Absolutely. If you're just joining us, everybody, I'm Jim Masters. You're watching live the Jim Masters Show live, Entertainment Lifestyle Variety Talk Show series. Give us a thumbs up if you're enjoying this. A little thumbs up icon on our YouTube channel. Leave a comment on our YouTube channel as well. We've got a nice piece of music here. Actually, it's you doing a lot of improv. It's an evening of improv. And it's a nice video clip that we're going to show. And then we'll come back and we'll chat some more with our very special guest. Brian, that sound good to you?
Sounds fantastic.
All right, gang. More music coming up. He'll play a little bit more for us as well. And it's good to see everybody. If you're here and enjoying, let us know. Leave a comment on the YouTube channel. Drop a comment in our lovely chat room as well. All right. We're having an evening with Brian. And guess what? Here's some more.
And so please relax and please enjoy yourself, and I'm going to just sink into the beauty of this and the beauty of the cause, and very, very happy to share everything I can with you.
Jim.
That was really, really nice. And
I,
that was really, really, really beautiful.
I have to genuinely thank you for picking that out. You know, what I was doing is I was, you know, those are two original songs of mine that, you know, I always elaborate on them in different ways. And I did an introduction, and the first one is called Healing. That's the one that goes this way. Okay. But there's a lot of my own music which I haven't put on recordings yet. That's one of them. And the second piece was something that I wrote called Sunshine. And that's also one of my better tunes. And I haven't put that on a recording yet either. And it wasn't until you played it that I went, oh my. I mean, and I'm going to pull those back up and do something with them. That Sunshine was based on reflecting on my sort of high school years and some happy times I had when I was a teenager.
Very special and very, very cool, huh? I mean,
Wow.
when you hear it, it's just, it moves you, doesn't it, to hear it again?
It reminds me of something very important for me to even be reminded of now, you know, as we're speaking, because, you know, I'm going through I keep telling this, and I've been telling this to people for months. This is since the pandemic, but coming out of the pandemic, it's only forward, and the groundwork for forward isn't really laid out there. I just know that the heart and the vision is. And so,
yeah, and this triggered it. This situation of the downtime, the reflection, the pause, all the things that we've seen going on in our world, all the things we've experienced, the darkness, the light, all of it has given us this. With all we say it a lot on the show, with all the craziness and all the horrificness and everything that's gone on, also a gift and an opportunity to stop, pause, breathe, reflect, and see what we want to do with our lives individually and hopefully collectively going forward with more kindness, empathy, collaborative nature, warmth, and forward thinking. And I know what you mean, because I've been experiencing that as well. This has been so monumental. And if you are somebody who feels things, you're a feeler, like, you know, you're in this industry, I'm in these industries because we want to inspire people. We want to lift them. We want to entertain them. We want to get them to think. We want to, you know, create beautiful scenarios for their lives. And now we've stopped and paused and looked. And now we're looking at it like, okay, what are some of those things that I want to continue to do that I love, but I want to enhance or I want to bring into the fold? You also want to call your own shots. You also want to say, okay, this is what I want to do. This is how I want to do it. These are the things that move me, my heart and soul. These are the things that speak to me, and I'm going to share them with the world. And it sounds like it's been something that has been a monumental thing happening in your life, and a beautiful thing.
very, very beautiful and monumental to really get so much reinforcement from so many thousands of people online that I'm convinced that it's the right way for me to go, and also convinced that how I go about it is the right way for me to go about it. And I have to say that, I mean, I've been utterly blessed to be able to enter into these other worlds at their peak, or at, you know, so entering and, you know, playing a perfect, having the G minor, you know, Brahms Quartet number 2, and having the audience go wild when you're a 19-year-old and go, we never heard of you, as like, you know, and then going and being able to play with Pierre Boulez and being able to tour with John Adams on the premiere of Nixon in China, and being able to do the motion pictures and be able to be in all of those cartoons. I caught the edges and I caught the sweet spots of a lot of different periods, and especially my dear friend Jim Walker, who has the iconic band Free Flight. If I'm sure you may be familiar
Being
with.
a part of that, you have been as well. That's
And,
right, touring with them.
and the last installation for the last, you know, and he was so generous to play a lot of my tunes, and we toured all over the country. And you know, he was a musician that when I lived in the Bay Area, I saw my ex-wife's a flutist, and I saw a Flute Talk magazine. His picture was on it, and I was reading about him. I was going, oh my God, this guy's a role model, because he was a principal flutist of the LA Philharmonic. He then got into the studios and decided to resign as the principal flutist and follow his heart and put a jazz classical fusion band together, as well as maintaining his position at the Colburn School and having just retired from USC as being one of the world's finest flutists. And we come down here, my ex-wife gets into his class, she does well, I make friends with him, he hears a piece of music of mine, he goes, will you play with me? And I couldn't believe that from when I saw this man's picture, and I said, yeah, he quit the Philharmonic. I always kept my eyes open for those people that did these seemingly sort of, you know, really risky things, but they were following their passion. And Jim was one of those guys. And so he was an inspiration. And then to become friends with him and play with him was whole, you know, unbelievable, surreal level for
Very
6
cool.
Yeah. So that's how that worked out. Yeah.
That's absolutely incredible. That's a really great story. We have a little bit more too. This is improv at the Cal Philharmonic too, as well. This is really nice. The setting. Do you remember this?
Yeah, these are fun. This is my great friend Victor Venner, who conducts the Cal Phil Orchestra. He would sometimes have me play Rhapsody in Blue or with the Gershwin second Rhapsody. But I would come back on for an encore, and what he would do is he would call out to the audience and say, call out 5 or 6 different songs. And I would say, okay. And then I put them together in a mashup. And so that's one of the, I don't know, it's pony tricks, but it's one of the things I love to do. And a lot of people have heard that part of me, and I've been able to do it in concert settings like that, you know, with after doing, you know, something like Rhapsody in Blue, or after doing something like the Gershwin Concerto for a large audience. So
And there's something about being outside too, which you know with the Hollywood Bowl too. There's just something about the outside and the air and just the expansive nature of the music. I mean, it sounds great when it's in Carnegie Hall and everywhere else, but when you're outside and there's nature and the sun setting, you know, or the ocean behind or whatever it is, there's something magical that happens, right?
Oh, it's incredible, because it really is open, and it really, you know, I've always been fascinated with the night sky since I was just a child. So in a sense, you're connected with your intimate self, you're connected with the hearts of people, but you're also connected just by virtue of having loved the night sky to a sense of eternity, a sense of purpose. And those are all registering at the same time.
Have you ever had the pleasure of performing in any way, shape, or form at Red Rocks in Colorado?
I never did. It was one of the places that, you know, was on
bucket list. Yes. Or have you been to any performances there?
I only traveled through there just to check it out and see what it would involve. And at that point in my life, I was too involved in the studio world here.
What you had to do, right?
And it would have taken a lot to.
Did you end up also on, you know, folks who are in the session world too play on a lot of commercials and jingles, or like, did you get into that realm as well? Commercials and
I was called for commercials. There were a couple ones that actually had me playing piano, and the one that was broadcast nationally is the one that was the most fun. The the director who directed that commercial was Jan Dubont, and he was the director of the Speed movies, car about speed. And so this was for, I believe, the either 92 Winter Olympics. And so this is when Mercedes Benz rolled out. No, it wasn't. I don't think it was Mercedes. I think it was
BMW or Audi.
BMW. It was BMW self-tuning engines. Okay, so I played a Chopin etude, the harp etude. And he had the camera going over my fingers like this, and he had the camera going over the edge of the piano. And then once in a while, the other part, there would be a clunker note, boing, boing, that would be out of tune. And then it would go back to the Chopin etude. And so the commercial was aired during those Olympics.
Mm.
So I got to play that, and that was the BMW self-tuning car, and it was just an amazing experience to watch it. And I was like, "Whoa, that's
isn't that cool?"
Yeah, it was really
to
cool.
be a part of something like that.
The way it put together was ingenious because he had the car on the road.
Yeah.
And then he had it matching the glide slope of the piano structure, and I had worked out the etude and played it well as the various takes, and then once in a while played a ding ding, something that the piano tuner didn't even want to tune that far out of tune, and they kept saying, "No, we need it more out of tune, more out of tune." Right.
I bet you they sold a lot of cars when they
Yeah,
heard that. They sold a lot of those vehicles. It's
so
amazing the power of it all.
that's
Here,
my most memorable commercial.
that's a great one during the Olympics. It's like the Super Bowl. My God.
Yeah.
Here you are again doing improv at Cal Philharmonic, as you were describing. It's really cool, folks. You see, it's a wide shot, so you see sort of the setting outdoors. Really, really nice. Enjoy this, gang. And thanks for all the great comments. A lot of people are commenting live. If you'd like to comment on our YouTube channel, leave a comment, drop a comment. Let us know how much you're enjoying this episode with Bryan and myself, and all the episodes you're enjoying on the Jim Masters Show Live. Give us a thumbs up too. And if you haven't subscribed to Jim Masters TV. That's the YouTube channel on the Jim Masters Show. All right, more great music. Now we're taking you to the Cal Philharmonic as he improvs as only he can do. That one woman let out that roar, that scream, that was incredible. She loved it. That was fantastic, huh?
I think at night somebody called out someone. It was basically the Gershwin Led Zeppelin mashup.
It was an
Somebody
incredible.
called out Cashmere. Somebody called out uh, some other Gershwin tunes, and also Stairway to Heaven, and it was fun to mix them together.
It's an incredible, because now when you do it, I mean, you remind me of like Wayne Brady, where you can throw anything at it, and all of a sudden you can put all these scenarios together. On what was it, the TV series on ABC? Whose Line Is It Anyway? And the actors and comedians, you can throw any line at them, and they can act out all of these incredible things. It's very similar to that. They can throw things at you, and all of a sudden, is your mind always going? I mean,
Yeah,
you like you say, you like being calm and cool and collected, easygoing. However, the Jerry Garcia of Peter Nero's, but inside you still have all those cylinders are firing. I know that because I hear easy, calm, and everything with me. But inside, everything is firing. I'm aware of everything. I'm in tune with everything, and it's like a sport. How about for you?
inside it's an astrozoological gathering. I just made that up.
There's an improv right there. Astrozoological.
Astrozoological, absolutely. Because there's so, I mean, I always say, I mean, I like to be, I try to be calm so that I don't go crazy. But I always like to say
that's always a tough thing to try to master, isn't it?
I say silly things like when I'm playing the piano, I said, "Oh, I just listened to the music once," or when I'm thinking or espousing a thought, I said, "Oh, I'm just listening to what my brain is saying." So after all these years, there's sort of like this melted Rauschenbergian jukebox up there with all these bits of information. Some of them, a lot of them are intact whole. Others are like little wee pieces. And then I have mechanisms inside that are very in the moment, being able to, how to turn on a dime, how to turn this into that, how to get out of this jam, how to make it not seem like a jam, how to move over here and move over here. So it's constantly going. And when I'm asked to do this, and I have to do it in a moment. The main switch that I need to flip on is just the trust one,
Right, yeah.
and
Trusting in yourself.
Trust in myself, and at the same time, be in a relaxed flow state. So it's not like trust and scared. It's trust and whew,
right
trust there.
Let it flow through. Do you ever feel like you are? Do you ever sometimes feel like not only are you the facilitator, the creator, but also you're a facilitator of energy that's flowing through you from other sources greater than yourself, and you're being influenced by that?
There's no question about that. And to watch the dance between what's being channeled and what's inside of me, and to not get too hung up on what the differentiations are, because that gets to be kind of a neurosis within itself, and to just let it be.
Just let it go. Yeah.
Things come in, and they go through. There will be no rhyme or reason why. Sometimes I'll play something and somebody will say, "Wow, that's been on my mind all day," or I'm in tune with whatever's going on socially, geopolitically. I'll either express it or I'll for a bomb. But I know that it's a cross section, a very sort of fluid cross section of different energetic shells, and I have a pretty good sense of which part of those shells and which part of the mechanisms need to take care of which part of the job. And so the hands and all of this connection takes part of that playing job. But I also know that I have to track my self-awareness. It's like, oh, I am aware that I am doing this. The self-awareness part is a nice little watching circle, a hovering eye. It does its job. I don't try to push that out, because then that creates schisma. And then there's the sense of, for lack of a better word, the spiritual and the purposeful. And so I allow all these basic, I call them sort of spheres within spheres, to allow to move in the way that they have to move without creating interference or locking patterns, so that the message can simply be delivered in the best way that I can. Yeah.
That's beautifully said.
Thank you. Yeah.
How do you, what are some things that do inspire you? Are you inspired by people, by nature, by things that you hear, your own life experiences, all of the above?
Well, I'm inspired by the hearts of people. I am connected to people, especially given my early childhood experience and given who I am. I am inspired by people who are, having a rough time, and I like to administer comfort. And then other times I'm inspired by, like, when the world gets to be so much, and I know that as a single musician, we have to watch out for our own grandiosity. So I know that I'm not going to be able to change the world and deal with the major problems that only large corporate and large money and large governments can maybe deal with. But I also know at the same time, I can play music as sort of a lubricant and an energy to go around those things. And so oftentimes I'll be inspired by what I see going out there. And so there'll be times when I'll be expressing things that come from, oh, this is going on. This is what we need. And there are other times when I go, I need a break from this, and I need to connect to something transcendent and something that's celestial and something that takes us into that other mind state. I call it kairos. I call it out of time. There's and I'll bring up, I use that word kairos. It comes from Greek philosophy, and it basically is a different sense of time other than linear time. It has to do with the vertical sense of time that is both the moment and eternity simultaneously. So it's that idea of not being attached to our three-dimensional space-time, illusion that this is it, that it's a multi-dimensional existence of which we are inextricably part of. And so I'll go to all these different areas. And then many other times I'll play things where I need to just soothe myself.
Yes, right. What do you do to unplug and disconnect so you can then come back at it refreshed and rejuvenated? What are some things that you do that might not even have anything to do with music, just to be able to pull back, live all this other part of life, pull from that, and then use it in your music going forward and plug back into it? Or is it something that's a 24/7, 365 for you? Are you able to not turn it off, but sort of mute it a little bit, go over here, do this, swim in the ocean, go on a hike, do other things, make sourdough bread, call the family, whatever it is, so that there you can then come back at it refreshed, ready to go, rejuvenated?
Well, when I was a child, we grew up right underneath a place called Gaston Park. And I would take long walks in the woods. And I would always try to find paths in the woods that were secret places that hadn't been gone down yet. And, as time went on and in my adult life, I've not done nearly the amount of traveling in nature that I need to. And so I think what I've done is honestly replaced that by, people think I'm really busy, but what I'm really doing is sleeping. Because there's am busy, but there's the whole.
Not like Rip Van Winkle, I hope.
But I mean, I remember dreams from when I was 2 and 1. There is the restorative rest. So I don't engage in. I used to try different meditative practices, and they were all helpful. But I think it's just a present moment mindfulness, and it's allowing my beta activity, which all this is, to just drop down into an alpha activity and allow everything to be in there in my psyche and not identify it as me, and to make myself comfortable. And so I can be at a dinner with a good friend, for instance. I mean, I love having dinner on the ocean, sitting there for 6 hours, a bottle of wine.
Yeah.
And especially with the ocean, because
I'm an ocean person, 120%. Yeah.
You know that those waves,
yes,
what it's like, you know, they've been there for the lifetime of the planet.
Yes, and they will be here beyond us. Yes,
here beyond us, and so that becomes more a metaphor for larger scales of eternity. So whatever I do to put myself in touch with that kind of experience that puts me in touch with anything that's transcendent for a length of time, whether it's through my own sleep and letting go of any kind of intentionality, or whether it's on the ocean, or it's sitting there and enjoying food and definitely some wine, because I'm not a drunk and I don't drink a lot, but I have fallen in love with a liquor in the last 3 years, mezcal, that has made
that is a good one. Yes,
I tasted it for the first time.
It's very good, isn't it? Yes.
Yeah, I didn't know
this segment's sponsored by.
I didn't know agave had so many worlds.
Yes. You mentioned the ocean. You're there on the West Coast. We're here on the East Coast.
Yeah.
We're just a few blocks. We could walk to it from here. And I grew up, out east on Long Island in New York, where we're surrounded by it. The Long Island Sound to the north, the Atlantic on North Shore, Long Island Sound, South Shore, Atlantic Ocean. And we've got it here along the New England coast. And it's a go-to for me. It always has been. We would always be by the water, in it, even as kids. We had a swimming pool in the backyard growing up, and we were always in that too. But then the family would always pack up when we would go to the beach. We would go to the ocean and spend the day. And for me, even still today, I kept telling everybody when this pandemic started, even on this show, because we started the show right around that time, when people were really having this sense of the world's coming apart, everything they knew and that they loved is going away. Everything's being rewritten and erased. Everything is no longer going to be recognizable. I said, well, in some aspects, yeah. And some of it is good that that's the case. In other aspects, the ocean is still here. The sun rises and sets. The forest, the gardens, the animals, it's all still here. And like you said, the ocean was here way before us, and it'll be here, way beyond us. So go to those places that are constant, that are rhythmic, that have a flow, when it seems like everything else has stopped and frozen, when everything else is bleak, bland, dark, and gray, and no longer recognizable to you. Go to the ocean, or if you don't have an ocean near you, go to the lake or go in nature, whatever it may be. Go to those constants and let it just sort of flow over you. Plant a garden in your yard. A lot of people, did that during these times because it was nature. They can get their hands dirty and nurture something. Whatever it is, bake bread, spend time with their family. But go to those things that are there, that are constant and that are larger than you, and don't try to control them. Allow them to inspire you. So when I go to the ocean, swimming, surfing, boogie boarding, sailing, whatever we're doing, which is usually everything, I'm the last one that's always saying, oh, we got to go. Yeah, it's raining. We got to go. Lightning's coming. We got to go.
I love the rain.
it's just to me. Oh yeah, I love when it's raining outside and nighttime and you hear it. And we even love the snow. Like I like when it snows, in wintertime.
Mhm.
Just something nice about it, Christmas Eve or what have you. But the ocean for me is really a life force because it's larger than me.
Mhm.
It's stronger than I'll ever be. And yet it provides such great beauty and joy. The sun rises from it and sets in it. And it's always been something that I've gone to plug in and be energized, whether you're walking, even if you're, one of my favorite things, if I'm not in it, is walking at the tip of where the waves are coming in and
Ah,
the water is just going over your feet and you're walking along the beach, along the coast, and here comes the water and it's just coming over your ankles and then it retreats and more comes in and it's just really fantastic. And I give it a lot of respect because again, it's in control, not me. So I have this mutual respect. It provides me beauty and joy, comfort, entertainment, fitness, but at the same time I respect it and I've got a relationship with the ocean. So I just said to everybody, get out there and surround yourself by the things that have always been here when you were a kid and will always be here beyond any of this chaos, craziness as we humans are trying to figure out what to do with ourselves and our lives and how to, control everything. Just get out there and go to things larger. Music is one of those things too. You put music on.
yeah.
I don't smoke, but I've always said music is my cigarette.
Mhm.
And I love when it's on and I always have it on. And sometimes I sleep to it. And it's just when things are tough and rough, if not the ocean, the music is on. Even holiday time, we got the music going. It's an essential component for me,
It
as I
is.
know it is for you.
I think it is. I have a little story that I like to tell. I have a friend who has a music studio. Her name's Susan High, and she'll have her students play. And then a few years back, and then she'll have me do an improvisation afterwards. And this was back in 20, I don't know, might have been 2017, and I was talking to kids.
Seems like so long ago, doesn't it?
Yeah, yeah,
It's BC, and
yeah.
BC used to mean before Christ.
Before
Now,
COVID.
now we know what it means.
But I wanted to say something simple to them because I did an improvisation integrating their pieces with "It's a Small World" from Disney.
Oh yeah.
And all that I told them, they're 6 to 15 years old. I said, just remember, I said, music is the better part of the human being, you know. And there was a little boy that came up to me who was maybe second generation Eastern Indian, and I felt like a young, Rabindranath Tagore was looking in my eyes, and he just says, I want to thank you so much for what you said about music being the better part of us. And I'll never forget the look on this 8-year-old's face that connected. And I always love to tell that story. Yeah.
Now, there are ways that probably he's been inspired and will probably always remember that. And who knows, maybe he's picked up a guitar now, or maybe he's doing something in music or something that's creating and inspiring and touching others, or he will down the line just
Or
by,
an ambassador of some sort. Who knows? I mean,
yeah, right.
I was shocked that sincere eye to eye feedback.
He was really looking to you, right? And that's the other thing too that I'm always conscious of, and I think sometimes our world has lost sight of some of it, that there's always opportunities to touch people and inspire them through our work, what we do, but also just in everyday life, just in a supermarket or a store or outside,
Oh,
just
yeah.
with a kind word or a smile or holding the door, or there's these simple things that we were always told as kids are the things to do, to be kind and generous and helpful and all of that. Because now we're in a time where everybody's pushing and shoving and yelling and fighting and grabbing, and it's me, and selfish and road rage and violence and hatred and constant every single day. We're seeing reflections of that here in this country and around the world. And it's what goes on yesterday seems to be topped by the nuts that are doing all kinds of crazy stuff today, and the nuttiness of it all. And I'm a Libra. I like balance and harmony. So we have our work cut out for us to try to, create that environment for everybody. But I just
Libra is my rising sign.
Lisa, oh really? See,
I'm a Taurus, which accounts for like I'm going to make this choice. But Libra, and I guess for astrologers out there, my moon is in Pisces, so it all makes for an interesting chart.
My father Pisces, sister Taurus, mother Aries. I'm Libra with Virgo rising, so I like that balance and harmony with some sense of structure. Like there's a beginning, middle, and end to certain things, but at the same time, what did I say? I don't mind being in the room, but I do like to know that there is a window that we can go out if we need to. That there's air flowing through, that there's movement. What do you do if you're always thinking and creating? You're talking about all the sleeping. How do you sleep? What do you do? What is your routine? What's going to be your routine tonight to set things up so you can turn the mind off and go into that REM sleep? How are you able? Do you turn red lights on? They say red lights are good for you. Turn the blue lights off. What do you do, Bryan?
Well, without being completely overt about everything, when you have as much energy and neural connection as I do, at some point along the road, you need something to help you stay on the planet. Otherwise, it can lead to a lot of high neurologically induced physiological responses that aren't healthy.
So you have a glass of milk and you dim your lights after watching Dick Van Dyke Show reruns.
Absolutely.
That's exactly what I thought.
And I have very good doctors who understand, and I'm very cooperative.
Whatever you say, an apple a day keeps the doctor away, right?
That helps. And I suppose there's every night and every morning there's a time where there's always, especially at night, I've done this all my life, and it's not necessarily a religious practice at the same time, but you have to have this sense of acceptance, for better and for worse, of what is, where you are, where things are,
things you can't control,
things that you have to put away the could have been, should have done, should not have done, and just have this sense of acceptance on all these hierarchical levels that are both personal and eternal, and be in touch with that, so that then you can rest into that sense of acceptance. I think that's probably what I've done all my life, and then that really is the portal that goes into the dream world, where boy, I sure learned a lot from that world.
You're influenced by dreams, huh? Do you ever? I mentioned this a couple of times on the show. I have a friend, or he's no longer with us, unfortunately, but he was a brilliant guy, and he would always write screenplays and all of these cool things. And he was in production, and he always had all these inventions in his basement. He thought of all these fabulous things, but he would only complete them up to about 3/4 of the way, and then something would stop him. He had a fear of rejection. He feared total success, because we had these great conversations about it till 5 a.m. And And I got what he was saying. He said he feared total success in terms of what in his mind total success was, because and most people would then say, oh, well, of course, because what goes up eventually goes down. And I said, no, that's not what he was saying. What he was saying was he feared total, complete success in terms of what he built up success to be.
Right.
And that if he reached that pinnacle in his mind of what that success was, what if it was empty? What if it didn't match what the buildup was? And now that you've reached this pinnacle, what's to do next? You've reached the epic, the top of Mount Everest. So I got that. And he used to wake up. He told me one of the best times for him to create was when the rest of his family was sleeping in bed. And he would wake up out of a sleep, sometimes 2:30 in the morning, and he'd go right to his typewriter and he'd start typing away some brilliant work. And it would be when the house is quiet, and this is pre-internet too. So you didn't even have all those 24-hour cell phones, and people could reach you morning, noon, and night. And if you're at a funeral, they don't understand you're at a funeral. They still want an answer texted back. And you're like, I'm at a funeral right now. Can you give me at least 10 minutes? I'm the pallbearer. I'm carrying the casket, lay off. This is pre all of that.
Right.
And he used to tell me that night for him, when there wasn't that clamor and chatter and all the things you had to do and all the people you had to see and communicate with, and the house was quiet and everybody was asleep, he would create like crazy. He never would take it and go the next step to submit things. And then 2 years later, he would see a movie that you probably played in that matched almost his idea 2 years earlier, but he never had that ability to get it out there and submit it because he feared rejection and all.
What you're saying?
It's nighttime for you when everything's quiet and still, and you don't have to answer emails, and you don't have to get in the car and be here, and you don't have to do all the other day-to-day stuff.
Yeah.
Is that a good time for you?
It's a great time because, sometimes I can't think of simple words, so I think of the big words. The hegemony, which means the slave driver of the clock, of the clock time.
During a Twilight episodes that address that too, To Serve Man and all these others from the brilliant mind of Rod Serling.
In terms of the way culture is generally structured, it's in farming and everything, the daylight hours are times that are split into clock time. This hour here, this hour is here. Okay, now it's time for lunch, the days of the week. And then after, now that we know that things are always percolating globally, there was a time when, at nighttime, that's when the clock time, whether it was 9, 10, 11, 12, especially 1, especially after 12, when the old TVs would you just have the standard pattern. They play the national anthem, then you'd have the test pattern. And so
I actually miss all that. I used to love all that.
It's all of that flex time where you go, oh, I'm not being ruled by the minute to minute, second to second sort of marching orders of the clock time.
Like we are now, yeah.
Yeah. And so more and more, what I see happening, what I feel is happening to people is that those marching orders of clock time are starting to encroach more and more into people's lives. And if it's not because of the work they have to do, it's because they need to replicate that sense of timing for themselves by plugging them into something that they're used to, and then substitutes for that, and then to do that all night. But if we can unplug from that conditioning, the conditioning of the clock time, and I'll even say that it's, I remember a long, long, long time ago when I first heard about the word goal, and I really thought deeply about the word goal. What is your goal? I was in
Where do
fifth
you
grade.
want to be in 10 years?
Yeah, when you mentioned success, I the only thing I could write about was that to aspire to a tangible goal that was I'm at X place had a kind of illusory nature to it. And that goal was really about defining the parameters of process. You know, that's the goal is how we travel, not where we go. And so those 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 times at night affords all of us to be able to travel more easily without, sort of like this pendulum of the clock swiveling through.
Right.
It's why Mahler went into the woods all summer to write his symphonies, and then he would come back down in Austria, come back down the hill to conduct the orchestras.
Right.
He would be out of time, and he had all of that disposable to him, so that the clock did not interfere with the human natural nature of how long a phrase really needed to be.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Did you want to play a little bit more for us too?
Of course,
While you're there? Yeah.
Why not?
Yeah. Surprises. Throw something together.
Okay.
Wow. I like the way you did that. You are a master. You opened the lid without even looking.
Oh, so maybe I'll surprise myself with a little something. And we're talking about process and letting things go.
I do have a question for you.
Yeah.
Do you do you tend to leave the lid up or down?
It's up most of the time, but it's down when I want to have
Because
my
that has
Starbucks on it. I want to have my water on it, and I'm playing. The other thing I like to do that I didn't tell you is I like to play speed chess on the computer.
Do you really?
I like to play 1-minute games. Yeah.
The reason why I asked this question is because that sometimes that question of leaving the lid up or leaving the lid down has created some major arguments in marriages.
The lid's mostly up unless. Oh, let's see what comes. I'm going to mix all those thoughts together. I have one tune in mind that's one of my favorites, but I want to do something which is called a reveal, where basically I'll just sort of play around it and improvise abstract or maybe not so abstract things, and eventually the tune will reveal itself. I'll hide it at first, and then it'll come out. It's one of my favorite songs. I love the message in it.
Wow.
Uh,
It's quite a workout, isn't it? Mentally, physically, and so many different levels as you're creating it and you're doing it and you're performing it.
yeah.
It's quite extraordinary, isn't it?
It's an ultimate state of flow, because
Is it
I
like a high for you? Are you elevated? Are you,
yeah,
yeah,
it's
transported? Yeah.
there's the right brain is maximized, the left brain is maximized, the
Yeah.
corpus callosum is doing everything, but also at the same time where you're using everything and your attributes, like I said, these concentric circles, I'm keeping track of my own comfort zone. I'm keeping track of like sort of like my physicality. I'm keeping track of my heart and my mood so that I don't tighten up because
Right.
I want to be able to use all of this stuff that's under the hood, but I don't want to impart anxiety. And
Right.
so doing all of that at once
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
truly
Yeah.
an addictive experience in the best sense of the word because it's a
Absolutely.
high state of flow. Yeah.
I get that because that's what I get out of my work on television and radio and stage and film when I'm on, especially when I'm live and when there's no net, when I
Yeah.
have to go out there and do something, when it's all up to me to ad lib, to create, to put it all together, to bring people together. There's just something, even though it's a lot of hard work and it's not something everybody would want to do or maybe can do or whatever it may be, there's just something about the energizing nature of it. And to be able to plug in that way and to be able to express yourself in that way is extraordinary. And that's why I was watching you. And then I was watching while you were doing it and then looking for what you were doing just as soon as you stopped, as soon as you took your hands off the ivories there, that whoosh, washing over, that sort of like, that was fantastic. That was like you were on a roller coaster as a kid on an amusement park ride. You know what I mean?
That
Yeah.
was just, and I track each part of it. I have these little dials, like say, okay, it's time to dial up maybe a little more complexity, maybe dial down some complexity. It's time to, prepare for this kind of emotional arrival.
Yes.
How do we move from that and that?
Yeah.
So these
Yeah.
are all structural things.
It's a dance. Yeah.
If you that if you just
Incredible.
focus on the structural things, it's going to come across as sort of sketchy. But it has to be imbued with movement and music and filled in with the spirit of music as the first order of business, and then everything serves the message, and then you don't get caught up in intellectuasia.
You're exactly right. Exactly right. Well, it's the key is to have all of that going on inside, yet make it look so easy, so effortless, so 100% spontaneous. There's a lot of spontaneity in it, but there's also talent, training, skill, years put in, knowing, like you say, when to be very observant and to be intuitive, to know, okay, it's time to juice it up. Okay, it's time to back off. It's time to switch this. It's time to blend this in. Doing all of that while at the same time making it look like it's just a beautiful flowing river. It's all on purpose. It's all supposed to be this way, and it's all well prepared and thought out. But at the same time, it's happening as it's happening, and you're pulling upon all of that. That's a cool thing, isn't it?
It's very cool. And the other thing that was
I get it
is, I'm on your show, and you asked me to play, and so I have this other thing that's tracking what would be the appropriate length to do something for this at this part of the show.
Is that right? Exactly.
Absolutely. Right. That's running as well. And so these high states of everything, but when they're in fluidity and when they're at a level where still you can embrace things.
So good.
I mean, I see that in the great athletes. You see that.
Right.
You see that in execution of
float
magic.
like a butterfly, sting like a bee.
Yeah.
Perfect analogy, right? I tell you, this has been a terrific conversation. Do you know that we've chatted for 2 hours and 5 minutes?
God, Jim.
It doesn't seem like it, right? All the guests say it never seems like that. And I think that's just truly amazing. You are obviously totally enjoying the ride. You are. I love this. Where was this?
Oh, this was down.
I saw this and I was fascinated by it.
That's the Long Beach Aquarium.
Oh boy.
We were doing a special performance for I don't know. I think it was for the opening of something. And this particular
exhibit, yeah.
This is with if it's got 2 pianos there. I think that we were doing. It's me and my friend Gloria Chang, who's a great pianist in the area, doing Carnival of the Animals.
There we are. It's like peekaboo.
Yeah.
And look at you here, huh?
Oh my God.
Mm.
Who's that with the black hair?
What would the Bryan of today say to that Bryan of then? Breathe.
Maybe what I would say is that, you're going to change in ways that you probably won't expect, but that won't surprise you right now hearing it.
Right.
So just keep going.
Just keep going. Exactly right. Yeah. And that's really what it's all about. Look at this shot too here.
Yeah, that was from these were pictures. I have a good friend, Marina Manukian, and these were shots that were taken when we were recording Beethoven violin sonatas. Yeah.
There's somebody that's usually always here with us who comes in towards the latter part, Bryan, and he's here with his martini and his cigar. He usually sits there. Mr. George Burns is with us.
George.
There he is with a cigar. There
See.
he is. Everybody waits for George to show up. He's usually down here below with his martini and a cigar. He said you knocked it out of the park. He thoroughly enjoyed this conversation. He enjoyed the wit, wisdom, the music. He learned a lot. And he said you are truly a master of your craft. And he loved being here with you tonight, as did I and all the lovely viewers watching around the world. I hope the show met whatever expectations you had, my friend, and you enjoyed the time with us as much as I certainly have with you.
I really did. I didn't know what to expect, but it exceeded everything.
I appreciate that.
And
as I always say, my father has always said with his Irish wit and wisdom, whenever anybody, he said this when I was a kid,
yeah.
Whenever anybody says something kind or nice to you, ask them, Jim, to please put it in writing and address it management. So whatever the management is, just please address it management, because they make the decisions usually. Yeah. This was really fantastic. I appreciate all the time. A really great, incredible conversation. And that's what we do here, Bryan. As you know, you've watched, you've seen the show, you've watched episodes. You were mentioning that before you even came on as a guest, that you got a feel for it and you really enjoy what we're doing here, which isn't like interviews. It's an entertainment last I've already talk show series, sort of harkening back to the old school talk show style, Carson Cavett, the rest, but with a modern vibe and modern twist of today. That, and Kathleen says, incredible evening. Thank you both. Namas. Thank you, Kathleen. Good to have you with us here on the show. And we invite all of you to be back with us. Amazing folks are going to be with us coming up. Thank you for being here, Bryan, today. Thank you, Sherry in Kansas. So nice to see you here as well. Barbara in the house with smiles. And Linda, again, thank you, Jim, for everything you do for the guests and lovelies. You're an amazing host. Thank you, Linda in Florida. I appreciate that. Bunny Barnes says, a nice combo, Jim. Thank you of the old school with the new school blended in here. Veronica watching in Australia. She says, good day. She says, thank you, Bryan and Jim. Awesome chat show. Fantastic guest. Amazing host. Love your work. Thank you very much. Barbara says, thanks. Toby, of course. Fabulous Toby. Thanks again. Love you, Bryan. Merlin in Ontario, Canada. It's been an honor to meet you. Thanks for being with us, Lovities. You are now a Lovity. That's right. You have been designated a Jim Master Show Lovity. How does it make you feel, huh?
Well, it's changed my life.
And that's what I thought.
Well, but like when you say you change your life, you can't expect the big. If it changes your life in a little way, and it sticks, that's good stuff.
Exactly right. That's right. That is the absolute best.
Yeah.
This really was a treat, my friend, and we thank you very much. Brian Nassau, the teacher, is here, and he said hello. He said hello earlier, and Brian Nayland was here. Wow, as well, and we thank everybody for all these great comments. And feel free again to comment as well, folks, on our show, because you can do it on the YouTube channel right underneath this episode. We would love it. Got some cool folks who've been with us recently, Kenny. The other night we had Melba Moore was with us.
I saw you.
She was fantastic. Kevin Eubanks was with us. You know him, of course. Yes. Brilliant guitarist. Tomorrow we have Ellen Foley, fabulous rocker, actress. She sang with Meatloaf, and she was on television on Night Court. And Nathan Carter, the fabulous Irish country music star, is going to be with us on Sunday. And on Monday, my dear friends, Monica Mancini, daughter of Henry Mancini, brilliant singer, and the prolific 8-time Grammy-winning Greg Field, fabulous drummer and musician and producer. They are husband and wife. They're going to be here on Monday. Do you know Monica and Greg?
Yes.
Fabulous people, aren't they?
Fantastic.
Yeah. We've been friends for a long time, so they'll be with us as well. And you're the best, my friend. Thanks for joining us on the show. I appreciate all the time, and spread the word about the show. If you know folks you think would like to pop on, they are all welcome to join us. And you did well. Go make a sandwich now. You've earned it.
There's some peanut butter and jelly in the kitchen.
Oh, that's so good. Any final words about the show, about our conversation, or anything that you'd like to share, plus anything that's coming up you're excited about?
Well, thank you for, first of all, making it so comfortable to be on your show and inviting me. It's right in the sweet spot that I love, where it's live, unscripted, yet at the same time, I felt that I could be present and, just real, but informative and sort of beyond, I guess, in a way. The nicest things that I have coming up is I go up to a place in Paso Robles once a month to play this incredible piano. And shout out to my friend Corey Jordan. I call it the spaceship because it's the first step of stepping out and starting to travel.
Yes,
an incredible instrument, and so that manifested this year. And if that manifested, I'm going this little vision in here to be able to go out into the world and bring this out.
it's the best.
And so that's coming up next week, and I'm really looking forward to it. Yeah.
That is cool. Well, you keep playing, you keep making all the music and inspiring and entertaining us the way that you do, Bryan. This really was fantastic, and wishing you nothing but continued blessings and joys in your life. And we're going to keep that porch light on for you as well. You're welcome back to the Jim Masters Show anytime. And, even if it's just a quick 20-minute visit, you're always welcome. We don't put a clock on it. We let it roll for as long as the guest wants to be with us. And the viewers are here to the very end, which is really amazing. And we'll keep that light on for you. You're welcome back anytime, my friend. Okay.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Oh, it's been an absolute pleasure. You be well. And thanks for all the great music too. You're amazing, my friend.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Cheers.
All right. Take care.
You too.
Incredible, huh? Bryan Pezzone here on the Jim Masters Show live and direct from Los Angeles, California. As I mentioned, his career is extensive. Also a brilliant composer. I know we talked a lot about his being a fabulous performer, but a brilliant composer as well. And a true pleasure to have an opportunity to chat with here extensively on the Jim Masters Show live. If you missed any of this and you'd like to see it again, you can, because we archive all of our episodes right here on our YouTube channel, Jim Masters TV. So feel free to go back, or if you just loved it so much, you want to see it again and experience the vibe, hear the music and the great conversation and the interactivity with the viewers, the lovities, feel free to watch it again and share the link on your social media. We invite you to share all the links on your social media. Don't keep it a secret that you're a lovity. Don't keep it a secret that we are here. Let everybody know about the Jim Masters Show Live, entertainment, lifestyle, variety talk show series, where we are truly bringing back, and it was a guest I had about 2 years ago that said this, Jim, you're bringing back the lost art of conversation. That's what we're doing here. And we mix in levity, entertainment, interactivity, and all the rest. Toby says, wow-wee. I love that. Great upcoming shows. Yes, let me review that. Again, as I mentioned, Kevin Eubanks was just here. Melba Moore stopped by. Ellen Foley is going to be with us tomorrow. This is going to be amazing. She's a brilliant actress, fabulous singer, and she's here tomorrow, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. And I want to let you know also on Sunday, Irish country music star. Do you know that he outsold One Direction and Drake? Is that amazing? Nathan Carter. This will be his return visit to the Jim Masters Show Live. He and I met through my work on public television and PBS when he was in our studio at PBS, and I was interviewing him. I was tasked with interviewing him, and we had a great conversation live on television, and then I invited him to stop by our show. So this will be his return visit this Sunday at a special time, noon Eastern. The reason why we're doing it at noon, because for him and for his fans in Ireland and the UK, that'll be 5 o'clock at night. So they'll be able to watch and participate live at 5 o'clock in the UK and in Ireland this Sunday. And it'll be noon for us here on the East Coast, and 9 a.m. for those who are watching. So you have to get up early and have some toast and coffee and watch us in the morning for those in the Pacific time zones. And then again on Monday, the brilliant singer extraordinaire Monica Symphony and the incomparable Greg Field, 8-time Grammy-winning extraordinary drummer, musician, producer. They are husband and wife, and they are incredible. Both friends of mine. Worked on a public television special with Greg. Monica I interviewed on public television when she was doing a tribute several years back to her father, Henry Mancini. Yes. We also worked together at Carnegie Hall, where I met her mother, Ginny. I was emceeing for Tim Janis, a beautiful holiday Christmas concert, and Monica was there, and Ginny was there, and Sir James Galway was there, and so many of our friends, and it was wonderful. And they're going to be here, Monica and Greg, on Monday, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. And thank you, Kathleen Walker. I appreciate the love it. She says, be sure and subscribe. You won't be sorry. So many amazing shows, and about 730 that you can watch in the archives, and we'll have a binge fest. Get your friends together and just binge watch all these great episodes. Sherry Larson says, thank you, Jim, for all you do for us, and another wonderful show. Thank you, Sherry, watching in Kansas, in the breadbasket in the middle of the United States, where I'm sure it's a little hot, right? It was a hot day here on the East Coast. It's 10 o'clock at night, 10:20 at night, and it's still 78 degrees. But nice. We'll take that. It's nice. Let's take a look at a few more comments here, and then we'll get ready to wrap up. Toby is telling Bunny Barnes to make sure she binge watches our episodes. Absolutely. Veronica in Australia is going to binge watch. So glad I have access to the archives. So are we. Bunny Barnes has quite amazing history. Absolutely. Brian, thanks for the great comments. Wonderful show, Jim. Great conversation. Thank you, Brian. Zoni, absolutely. Good stuff. And Bunny says, pretty toasty in the Philly area. Matter of fact, that's where I was chatting today with Kevin Eubanks, who was the guest on the show just a couple of days ago. We had a brilliant conversation. He, of course, the music director for The Tonight Show at Jay Leno, and he's now doing You Bet Your Life, the game show with Jay. Not playing guitar, he's a co-host. He went, remember he said he was, if you were watching, remember he said of course, he's in Los Angeles. He was going to fly back east to visit his family in Philadelphia. That's where he is with his family in Philly, where he's originally from. And he said he and his mother watched the baseball all-star game for 3 hours, which is fantastic. And he watched it with his mom, and he goes, she's a real sport. And she absolutely is. So he's spending some family time right now with this beautiful family, and good stuff. You guys are the best. Thanks for being with us, everybody. Thanks for all these wonderful comments. Kathleen says, thanks, Jim and Brian. Great show. I appreciate it. Toby's now going to make some steak tacos. Going to get me hungry. 10:30 at night. Thank you, gang. Thanks for all these great comments. You are... Veronica in Australia says, you'll have to come hang with the Lovedies in the comments next time. Yes, absolutely. I agree. And Maureen says it's 106 degrees in Chandler, Arizona. Wow. That's toasty. That is toasty. We got up to, I think, the 90s, mid-90s. We're a little fortunate because we have the coast here, so there is that coastal breeze. Bunny says, I'm right outside Philly, just back from performing in Nashville. In Nashville, really? Oh, fantastic, Bunny. A little toastier inland in Nashville, I'm sure it is. Thanks, Jim. As great as always. Thank you very much. I appreciate that as well. You guys are terrific. Remember, here at the show, we don't say goodbye. We say see you later. We say sayonara, hasta la vista, wiedersehen, ciao, cheers, slancha, moilup, shalom, all the rest. But we don't say goodbye because we'll be back. As always, we'll be back. If you enjoyed this episode, give us a thumbs up. There's a thumbs up icon. Make sure you click the one that's pointed up. Very important. Give us a thumbs up, a like, leave a comment for us as well on our YouTube channel on this episode. And also don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Jim Masters TV. That's where all of this comes out of. So that helps us too. There's no cost when you do that. And make sure you click the notification bell so you never miss any of the episodes of the Jim Masters Show Live series. Thanks for being with us, gang. We have the best audience. We always have a good time. And we love it, love it, love it. You guys are terrific. What does Sherry say here? 79 degrees in Kansas, where you are. You guys are the best. All right. We are going to have a wonderful rest of your day, night, Jim and Lovedies. You too as well. For those watching live, we'll be back tomorrow. 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. For those watching Memorex, as we say, watching in the archives, stay right there. Another episode of our show comes up. Thanks for being with us all. We appreciate it from around the world, our international audience. As we always say, also, take care of one another, love one another, be good to one another, and take care of you. Be good to yourself as well. You got to do that. Thank you, Kathleen and Sherry and Bunny. Thank you very much. Done. That means she subscribed, she likes, leave a comment on our YouTube channel. We would love that too. You're the best. Bunny in Philly by way of Nashville. Gang, we love you all. Take care. Be well. We'll see you on the next episode of the Jim Masters Show Live. Take care. Cheers.